The Vishara Prime Grand Arena was a marvel of alien engineering, an open coliseum floating high above the roaring storms of a gas giant, its energy shields shimmering like liquid glass. Today it was packed with tens of thousands of beings from every corner of the galaxy, all eager for spectacle. Rumor had spread like wildfire. A human had been challenged. At the center of the arena, Princess Serexka Vorn of the Core Dominion stood tall, her scales glinting purple and gold beneath twin suns. Her race was bred for battle, warriors forged from birth, their strength and agility unmatched among the Accord species. She raised her clawed hand, voice amplified by the arena's translators. "Humans," she declared, her tone dripping with mockery. "Soft, fragile, hiding behind alliances and words. Let one of you stand before me, if you dare." Laughter rippled through the crowd. The core warriors in the stands hissed in approval. Then from the Terran delegation, a single man stepped forward. Lieutenant Mason Hale. He wore no armor, only the sleek black uniform of the Terran Marine Corps. Minimalist, unadorned, bearing a simple patch, the blue emblem of Earth. No medals, no fanfare, just a calm, piercing gaze. "I'll take your challenge," he said, voice steady. The alien princess tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "You? You're no warrior. You look barely evolved." Hale simply smiled. Looks can mislead. The crowd jeered. Even the announcers laughed as the duel's conditions were confirmed. No weapons, no tech, no armor. Pure physical combat. The energy barrier sealed and the air hummed with tension. Serexka lunged first. Her movements were lightning fast, trained by decades of combat. She was a blur of motion, claws slicing through the air where Hale had stood a heartbeat before. But he wasn't there anymore. He moved differently, too precise, too clean. He ducked, sidestepped, and countered, not wildly, but with controlled grace. The audience gasped as Serexka's attacks met empty air again and again, until... crack! A palm strike from Hale landed square in her chest, sending her stumbling backward. The sound echoed like thunder. Serexka froze, disbelief flickering in her eyes. He hadn't hit her with brute strength. It was technique. Every motion efficient, timed, perfect. Hale didn't advance. He stood calmly, hands lowered. "You said this was a duel, not a slaughter," he said evenly. The princess growled, rising. The laughter in the crowd faltered. Whispers spread. Something about this human didn't make sense. She charged again, fury blazing. Hale met her head-on, and with one fluid turn, flipped her to the ground. The arena shook. For the first time in her life, Princess Serexka Vorn, the pride of the Core Dominion, felt the icy sting of defeat. And Mason Hale, brushing dust from his uniform, simply said, "You wanted proof. Now you've got it." The crowd erupted, not in laughter, but in stunned silence. The galaxy had just witnessed the impossible. A human making a legend bleed. The air inside the arena felt electric. Every spectator, whether insectoid, crystalline, or scaled, leaned forward as the human stood unmoved, dust swirling at his feet. The princess of the Core Dominion, famed across 3 sectors for her victories, had just been thrown to the ground by someone half her size. The announcer's voice cracked through the air. "Unbelievable! The Terran combatant! What was that technique?" Serexka rose slowly, her pride burning hotter than the suns above. Her scaled chest heaved with fury, but her eyes, those 4 golden orbs, now held something else, too. uncertainty. "You mock me," she hissed. Hale shook his head. "No, I respect you enough to fight seriously, Princess." The words hit harder than his strike. The crowd murmured, confusion rippling through the tears. Then Serexka lunged again, faster this time, her fury giving her strength. She spun, tail whipping toward Hale like a battering ram. The impact should have shattered bones, but the human moved like water. He slipped under the strike, his hand catching her momentum and twisting her body with surgical precision. A heartbeat later, the princess was on the ground again. Gasps erupted from the stands. Holocameras zoomed in as her claws dug furrows in the arena floor. Hale stepped back once more, silent, his breathing steady. "Lesson 2, he said calmly. "Anger makes you predictable." Serexka snarled, blood glinting between her fangs. She leapt up, feinting left, striking right, an expert's trick. This time she landed a blow, slamming her fist into Hale's ribs. He staggered back slightly, grimacing, but his eyes never left hers. That small victory ignited the crowd. The core warriors roared with approval. Serexka pressed forward, blow after blow, fast, relentless. Hale parried, blocked, absorbed. His body bent, but didn't break. Every impact she delivered seemed to fuel him, to sharpen his movements. He caught her final strike mid-swing. Their eyes locked. "You're strong, but you don't understand why humans fight." Before she could respond, he pivoted, drove his elbow into her shoulder, and swept her legs out from under her. She hit the ground so hard the arena shields trembled. The silence that followed was absolute. When she looked up, she saw something in Hale's expression that sent a chill through her. It wasn't arrogance. It was sadness. He offered his hand. "You're fighting for pride. I fight for survival. That's the difference." Serexka slapped his hand away, glaring. "This isn't over!" Hale's voice softened. "It already is." Above them, the hollow boards flashed a warning. "Combatant life signs reaching critical threshold." The Medrones hovered anxiously. And yet the princess rose again, limping, battered, but furious. She would not yield. Across the galaxy, billions watched breathlessly. For the first time, the core Dominion's champion looked afraid. And for the first time, the galaxy began to wonder, what else were humans hiding behind those calm, steady eyes? The crowd was no longer laughing. The laughter had died somewhere between the third throw and the moment Serexka's blood hit the sand. Now there was only silence. A strange, heavy silence that even the roaring storms below Vishara Prime could not break. Serexka's breath came ragged. Every muscle burned, her body trembling from pain and disbelief. She was heir to a warrior empire, her strength genetically perfected, her skill honed through centuries of training passed down through bloodlines. Yet here she stood, defeated, overmatched, by a creature from a world that Dominion barely considered civilized. Her pride screamed. Her body begged her to stop, but her spirit, fierce and stubborn, refused to yield. She spat blood onto the arena floor. You're holding back, aren't you?" Hale's expression didn't change. "If I wasn't, this wouldn't be a duel. It'd be an execution." The audience gasped. The Dominion delegates rose in outrage, hissing and snarling, but Hale's words weren't arrogance. They were truth, spoken quietly and with regret. Serexka roared and lunged again, striking with a desperation that blurred into madness. Her claws slashed, her tail lashed, her fury tore through the air in a storm of movement. Hale met her head-on this time, not dodging, not retreating. His arms moved in fluid precision, redirecting every strike, every ounce of rage. When she finally landed one solid blow, Hale absorbed it with a grunt and countered in the same instant. His elbow struck her sternum with pinpoint accuracy.
The air left her lungs in a shocked gasp. She fell to one knee, vision swimming. Why do you fight like this? You don't even enjoy it." Hale looked down at her, his voice steady. "Because humans don't fight for sport, Princess. We fight when we have to. When everything's on the line. That's why we never stop." His words weren't boastful. They were a revelation. Around the arena, countless alien spectators leaned forward, their expressions unreadable. For the first time, they saw in the humans' eyes not arrogance, but memory. Wars fought on ruined worlds, civilizations nearly lost, families defended against extinction with nothing but willpower and grit. Humanity's strength wasn't in their muscles or their weapons. It was in their refusal to die quietly. Sorexka tried to rise again, but her legs buckled. Hale caught her before she hit the ground, lowering her gently. The gesture confused her even more than his skill. You show mercy? After humiliating me?" she whispered. He shook his head. "Not mercy. Respect." The crowd erupted, some in cheers, others in outrage. From the high box, her father, Warlord Vorn, stood silently, his gaze fixed on the human. For the first time in decades, the warlord's expression was not anger, but caution. And deep within his mind, an unspoken truth settled like a blade in the dark. The Terrans are not to be provoked again.
The med drones swarmed the arena, their lights flickering blue as they scanned the fallen princess. The match was over. The human hadn't finished her. He'd simply stopped fighting. That alone sent a ripple through every watching species. Lieutenant Mason Hale stood in the dust, chest rising and falling slowly, his face calm but eyes sharp. He didn't raise his arms in victory. He didn't smile. He simply looked to the stands, toward the towering figure of Warlord Vorn, Serex Ka's father. For a long, tense moment, neither moved. Then the warlord inclined his head ever so slightly, a gesture of respect so rare it silenced the galaxy. Serex Ka's voice broke the quiet. "Why didn't you finish it?" she rasped, still kneeling, still proud even in defeat. Hale glanced down at her, because winning wasn't the point. She frowned, confusion clouding her bruised features. "I didn't come here to prove humans are stronger. I came here to remind your people that strength isn't everything." Her eyes met his, and for the first time she saw not an opponent, but something alien in its own right. Empathy, the kind that terrifies conquerors more than any weapon. Around them the crowds began to stir. Some cheered, others whispered in awe. The word human carried a new tone now, no longer dismissive, no longer condescending. It carried weight. The arena announcer's voice trembled. "By decree of the Dominion and the Accord, victory to the Terran combatant." The words echoed through the galaxy. Hollow feeds replayed the duel endlessly. Commentators tried to explain what had happened, how a species once dismissed as primitives had produced warriors who fought with both restraint and power, fury and compassion. In the Dominion's capital, riots broke out among the young soldiers. Some called for vengeance, others spoke of respect. But in the warlord's private chambers, Serex Ka stood before her father, still wearing the bandages of defeat. "I underestimated them," she admitted quietly. "They fight as if every breath could be their last." Her father regarded her for a long time. "Then learn from them," he said, "because next time it may not be a duel, it may be war."
Across the stars, humanity's reputation transformed overnight. Where once they were the forgotten newcomers, now every fleet captain, every admiral, every ruler whispered the same warning: do not challenge a human lightly. As Vishara Prime drifted into its twilight, Sarexkar gazed out over the storm clouds below. The memory of Hale's steady eyes haunted her, not as an enemy's stare, but as something more profound. For the first time in her warrior life, she wanted to understand not how to defeat humanity, but how to be like them. Because that day, in one simple duel, a single human had changed the balance of the galaxy, not with power, but with purpose.